amplifying disinformation for the partisan gain of the Liberal Party. So that speaks to the integrity of these Liberals. And if they had any integrity, and if it really wasn't about protecting their pensions, they would support my amendment and remove the loser Liberal Pension Protection Act from the bill.
Hear, hear.
We're having to go to statements by members. The honourable member will have 3 minutes and 30 seconds left the next time that this matters before the House. Statements by members, déclaration de député. The honourable member for the Nepean.
Madam Speaker, Ottawa is a global tech hub with about 1,800 tech companies, 88,000 tech professionals, and North America's highest concentration of tech talent. Ottawa is renowned for our cutting-edge R&D and innovation in SaaS, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, advanced networks and 5G, health tech and life sciences, smart mobility, IoT, and many other disruptive technologies. Thanks to Invest Ottawa and federal funding, we have Nepean-based Area X.O, which evolved from the Ottawa L5 connected and autonomous vehicle test facility into the world-class R&D complex that enables and accelerates the development, testing, and application of next-generation smart mobility, autonomy, and connectivity technologies. I would like to recognize and thank former CEO of Invest Ottawa, Michael Tremblay, for his contribution to Ottawa's tech sector. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member for Bruce Grey, Owen Sound.
Madam Speaker, 6 students from Bruce and Grey counties participated in the Canada-wide Science Fair here in Ottawa this week. Shally Oat for her project Plant Growth Spurt, Oscar Weerasingi for his project Breakfast on the Brain, which won the gold medal in the junior division plus a health and nutrition award, Kenna Wilson for her project Body Temperature, which won a bronze medal in the junior division, Lucas Muir for his project Hydro Harvest, Emily Caulfield for her project Schooled, diving into the social behaviors of fish, and Charlotte Woodhouse with her project How Inbreeding Levels Affect Fertility in Holsteins, which won a bronze medal in the senior division. Congratulations to all the participants in the Canada-wide Science Fair. Canada's future in science is bright. Further, I'd like to recognize Ross McLean, who is retiring after 45 years of practicing law across our riding. Ross has been a dedicated, tireless member of the community. I wish him and Brenda all the best in the future.
The honourable member for Newmarket, Aurora.
Madam Speaker, I had the opportunity to join Theatre Aurora to celebrate 65 years of theatrical performances. Over the years, audiences have enjoyed and actors have been challenged by performances such as Sound of Music, Annie, and Murder on the Orient Express. Live theatre captures our imaginations and enriches our lives, and it provides a shared experience for both the audience and the actors. Theatre Aurora is provided an opportunity for experience to a wide range of emotions, providing professional type of experiences for those involved, actors, directors, producers, set designers, costume makers, and musicians, as well as ticket sellers. That Theatre Aurora accomplishes this in what used to be a cement factory is a testament to the creativity, the drive of all involved, providing us, the audience, with a memorable experience. For all that you do, I say thank you, Theatre Aurora.
The honourable member for London Fanshawe.
Safe Space London is a collective by, with, and for sex workers, allies, women, and non-binary folks. Since 2009, this collective offers harm reduction and first aid supplies, HIV and STI testing, cosmetics, clothing, hygiene products, peer support programming, and a safe place for sex workers. They also provide important education campaigns and advocacy for sex work decriminalization. Across Canada, organizations like Safe Space are under attack by conservatives that use cheap slogans to fearmonger and victimize the most vulnerable in our communities. And they do this in an attempt to raise their own status and to fundraise. Punching down is not leadership. But the community around Safe Space London are fierce, and I want to thank all the allies and organizations in London who have stood with them, showing the power women have when we stand together. I will always stand with and support Safe Space, and I will always fight against the Conservatives' misogynistic, anti-choice, anti-sex work agenda.
The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
Yes, Madam Speaker, last weekend I was asked, what's the primary difference between the Liberals and the Conservatives? And in 2 words, I said that Liberals care, Conservatives cut. Think of terms of it this way. Let me expand. The National Food Program in schools, Liberals do care about that. The National Disability Program, Liberals do care about that issue. The Canada Dental Plan, Madam Speaker, Liberals care, the Conservatives cut. Think in terms of the Canada Pharmacare program. The Liberals care, the Conservatives cut. What is the primary difference between the Liberals and the Conservatives, Madam Speaker? The Liberal Party of Canada genuinely cares about Canadians, and the Conservatives, all they want to do is cut, cut, cut.
The honourable member for Kawartha Lakes, Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Speaker, it's a sad reality that almost daily my office is approached by someone who just can't catch a break navigating through the cost of living crisis. Renat from Beaverton, a senior who suffers from severe allergies, has been stuck in an unsuitable unit for years because rental rates are far too expensive. Megan from Kawartha Lakes, a farmer, a business owner, a mother, is faced with a carbon tax on her and her husband's daily operations, and she has nowhere to turn for childcare due to outrageous costs and long wait lists. Just yesterday, Lori, a senior from Lindsay, called because she is being forced to decide between paying for food or rent, and now she relies on a food bank she was once a dedicated donor to. As hard as these stories are to hear, they are just the tip of the iceberg in what has become a shameful legacy of this NDP Liberal agenda, forcing almost 2 million people per month to the food bank. I join the plea for the NDP Liberals to show some compassion, because after 9 long years, they are not worth the cost or the misery.
The honourable member for Mont-Royal.
Enough is enough. On Wednesday, a Jewish school in Montreal had shots fired at it. On Saturday, 2 men opened fire at a Jewish school in Toronto. Last night, a synagogue in Vancouver was attacked. Over the course of the last 7 months, Jewish buildings and stores have been vandalized. Encampments have been set up at universities where posters extolling terrorist groups and glorifying violence against Jews are common. Demonstrators yelling chants for Jews to go back to Poland and calling for intifada and saying that Zionists are not wanted here have surrounded community buildings and blocked access and exit from them. At this point, condemnation is not enough. All levels of government need to do more, immediately. At the federal level, we need to designate the IRGC and Samadoun as terrorist organizations. We need to adopt criminal code amendments to protect schools, places of worship, and community centers, the same way as we did for hospitals during the pandemic. Enough is enough. Canadian Jews have a right to be safe in our country.
The honourable member for Etobicoke Lakeshore.
Madam Speaker, when I was 14, I met a guy named Joe Kennedy. We formed a friendship that would last a lifetime. On March 9th, Joe passed away to a heart problem, which is ironic given that he had a better heart than anybody I've ever met. He was kind, he was generous, he oozed integrity and humility, which guided him during a successful career, first with an Ontario Hydro and later with Community Living Toronto. He was also the most honest man I ever met, sometimes too honest. I know because I was at the receiving end of it for over 45 years. But he dished it out with a dry sense of humor. Madam Speaker, his opinion mattered to me more than any other, and I wouldn't be standing here without him. He was also fiercely loyal, Madam Speaker. Probably no greater example than his dedication and commitment to supporting the Toronto Maple Leafs. But nothing, and I mean nothing, meant more to Joe than his family, his wife Mary and his daughter Sarah. His final words to me was to make sure they're going to be okay. They're going to be okay, Joe, and that's because of you. Thank you.
The honourable member for Kelowna Lake Country.
I have blonde hair with hazel eyes. I'm 5'7". I'm wearing a black dress with a royal blue blazer. As the Shadow Minister for Disability Inclusion, it's my pleasure to recognize National Accessibility Week. Let us acknowledge the contributions and leadership of persons with disabilities and of their allies, the organizations and communities who care for, support, and champion for persons with disabilities in Canada. There is still much to do to make our society more accessible so persons with disabilities can access many of the services and places most people take for granted. Even in this place, the highest institution in the land, word has come to my attention of ways that this place hasn't met accessibility needs, and I'm actively working with House administration on this. So this week and every week, let's recognize the important contributions of Canadians living with disabilities and those who support them, and commit to work on removing barriers to accessibility.
The honourable member for Mississauga, Erin Mills.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to highlight our government's New Horizons for Seniors program. This federal grants and contributions program for seniors is a truly transformative initiative in the lives of so many seniors across Canada and in my riding of Mississauga, Erin Mills. Let me take this opportunity to highlight just a few of the many awesome organizations in my riding who do so much great work to bring communities together. These organizations include the Mississauga Seniors Club, Ivan Franco Homes, Shub Helping Hands, the Meadows Church, Fangwa Seniors. Whether it's awareness programs to educate us about the issues of elder abuse, weekly recreational activities, or even helping seniors access government services that they may be eligible for, these organizations represent the heart of my community. It is so important that we come together to support our seniors who continue to do so much for our community. Thank you.
The honourable member for Oshawa.
Madam Speaker, in Durham Region for years, the rite of passage included spending a week with Mom and Dad at Darlington Provincial Park, camping, roasting marshmallows, hot dogs, and the famous sing-alongs. Now, according to the out-of-touch Liberals, kids are rebelling, demanding that their parents cancel their summer vacation and immediately take them to the dentist? Yep, according to the Minister of Health, kids would prefer to say no to spending time with their loved ones this summer and instead have their teeth drilled and filled. Whose kids are these Liberals talking to? Yes, we all know that dental health is important, but this is not an either-or question. Sadly, this summer, many Oshawa families will not be able to afford a local staycation because of the Liberals' out-of-touch tax and spend agenda. When the Liberal MP for Whitby stated that their net zero goals were going to cause pain, is this what they were talking about? Why doesn't the NDP Liberal government axe the carbon tax, lift the taxes on gasoline so Canadians can save that extra $670 over the summer and afford a traditional family camping trip with the kids?
The honourable member for Portage-Lisgar.
What could be better than packing up the bathing suits, the camping gear, some snacks, and hopping in the truck for a family road trip? Well, according to the Liberals, it's picking up some extra shifts at work just to be taxed to the max, and then staying home, pretending your couch is a van and Netflix is the great outdoors. Or maybe it's another trip to the food bank line. After 9 long, miserable years, it's crystal clear that this Prime Minister simply isn't worth the cost. In the middle of this cost of living crisis, this Liberal NDP government hiked up the carbon tax by a whopping 23% this year. That's why common sense Conservatives are calling on this carbon tax coalition to give Canadians a summer break by axing the carbon tax, the federal fuel tax, and the GST on gasoline and diesel, lowering gas prices on average 35 cents a litre, so families can afford a simple summer vacation. Conservatives will axe the tax on everything for everyone after the carbon tax election, but until then, let's give Canadians a summer break.
Hear, hear. The honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
Cowabunga is a word used to express delight, and fittingly, it's also the name of a pizzeria in my riding of Hamilton Mountain that recently won the title World's Best Cheese Pizza at the International Pizza Challenge in Las Vegas. Owners Andy Hewen and Justin Tanda had entered the competition several times in years past, and they always did well, but this year was different from the start. This year, they almost couldn't compete at all. The luggage that held their signature sourdough got lost during the flight south. Luckily, they kept a little bit in their carry-on, and a staff member grabbed a last-minute airline ticket to bring them some more. I can tell you that sourdough crust with its Canadian cheese and sauce ingredients, it's the perfect mouth-watering combination. And the international judges agreed. And if the cheese pizza is perfect as it is, just imagine how good the pizzas are with other toppings added. The word is out. Hamiltonians are so enthusiastic about the pies, Cowabunga can hardly keep up with demand. I know my family can't wait to go back. Congratulations, Cowabunga.
The honourable member for New Westminster, Burnaby.
I'm honoured to wear today a purple pin in recognition of May as Lupus Awareness Month. Lupus, a chronic autoimmune disease, affects more than 1 in 1,000 Canadians. Managing lupus is as complex as diagnosing it. I want to share the story of my constituent, Brenda, from New Westminster, who has battled lupus for over 3 decades. This disease can impact organs, including the skin, eyes, joints, heart, lungs, and kidneys. Brenda requires 17 different medications to manage her lupus effectively. That's why the NDP advocates for increased funding to support a comprehensive approach that encompasses medication for symptom management, lifestyle adjustments, and consistent supervision by healthcare professionals. Together, we must ensure all lupus patients have equitable access to quality care, which is crucial for their well-being now and in the future. I extend my gratitude to Brenda, to my terrific niece Charlotte, who works as a teacher and battles lupus, as well as Lupus Canada, for their tireless advocacy during Lupus Awareness Month. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Drummond. Madam Speaker, radio is a very special medium because it becomes part of people's lives. And we saw that with Yves Deshotel, Radio-Canada's traffic reporter. He's just retired after 47 years. He started out in Regina, then lived in Montreal, where he used to drive his famous car nicknamed the Hedgehog. Yves quietly became part of our mornings and afternoons when we were driving to work or back from work. And even when we worked from home, we would turn up the volume to listen to him, like an old friend with a comforting voice. He had a touch of humor or the appropriate tone in serious situations. He was always extremely pleasant with listeners who would call him to let him know what traffic was doing. Yves Deshotel is retiring, and we'll just have to get used to it. But based on all of the tributes that we're hearing, well, we can say that we all agree in wishing him very happy roads ahead. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Calgary-Nose Hill.
We can't redistribute what we don't have. After 9 years of Liberal inflationary spending, this is what Mark Carney, likely the next leader of the Liberal Party, said in a campaign-style speech at a recent meeting of the Liberal Politburo Canada 2020. We can't redistribute what we don't have. As plates of expensive food were being distributed to Liberal backroomers, and while countless Canadians stood in line at a food bank, Mark Carney went on to blame Canadian workers and job creators for not producing enough revenue for the Liberals to redistribute to wealthy insider friends. We can't redistribute what we don't have. Mark Carney would know because his international wealth redistribution scheme, something called the Glasgow Financial Alliance for Net Zero, is falling apart, and now he has his sights set on the wallets of everyday Canadians. We can't redistribute what we don't have. A message to Mr. Carney. A Conservative government will stop arch elites like him from taking another dime from working-class Canadians to redistribute to their wealthy friends.
The Honourable Member Windsor-Tecumseh.
Madam Speaker, I rise today in the House of Commons to honour the life of Hannah Perry, who dreamed of being a nurse since the moment that she could walk. Her first patients were her stuffed animals that she examined with her toy stethoscope. It was to no one's surprise that Hannah studied nursing at the University of Windsor, where she stood out for her hard work, warmth, and peer mentoring. It was her calling. When she graduated, she was snapped up by Windsor Regional Hospital and began a bright future as a neurology nurse. On May 2nd, Hannah passed away at the age of 22 from medical complications. In a final act of selflessness, Hannah saved the lives of 7 women through organ donation. Her sister Grace opened a GoFundMe page to establish the Hannah Perry Memorial Scholarship that has already raised $55,000 to support the next generation of nurses. Madam Speaker, Hannah's love and spirit was boundless and will continue to live in our hearts and touch the lives of many. Thank you.
Oral questions, questions orales. The Honourable for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, breaking news. GDP last week GDP per capita was worse than 2017. This week it's worse than 2016. After 9 years as NDP Liberal government, Canadians are getting poorer. A recent study from the Fraser Institute found that Canadians are experiencing the worst decline in living standards in the last 40 years. Food banks are being overwhelmed. The cost of housing has doubled. Homeless encampments are now across our country. Canadians need a break. Will this Prime Minister stop his inflationary spending, stop his carbon tax, stop putting ideology before Canadians, And just for goodness sake, stop!
That's right.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
The member today talks about the Fraser Institute. I've heard him and other Conservative MPs in the past talk about rebel media, citing from them, for example. They ought to expand their horizons and actually look at the list. Look at the IMF list on GDP per person or per capita, Madam Speaker. The reality is we actually lead. We in fact are ahead of Japan, Germany, France, and the United Kingdom. The reality also is that they want to cut pensions. Unemployment would be higher under them. It's an endless list, Madam Speaker.
Remind members to please listen to the questions. They may not like the answer, but they should be listening to the questions. The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
Well, there you have it. Over and over again, these Liberals say, Canadians, you've never had it so good. Well, the reality is far from the truth. We learned today that 0.7%, that's how much the GDP per capita declined in the first quarter. Things keep getting worse. If, in fact, the carbon tax keeps getting, these Liberals are capable of a carbon tax carve-out, why will they not give a carve-out for all Canadians across this summer? We know that the carbon tax adds to the cost of living. They know it, we know it, Canadians know it. It's time for, on Monday, they'll have the opportunity to vote for a common-sense motion to save Canadians 35 cents per litre on gas. Will they vote in favour of it? Will they finally give Canadians a break?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
The member opposite is obviously from Ontario, Madam Speaker. What he just made clear, what the Conservative Party always makes clear, is they want to ruin the rebate for their constituents. A quarterly payment that disproportionately and positively benefits lower-income Canadians and middle-income Canadians. He talks about, and he always does, GDP per capita. Again, I refer him to the IMF list. We are ahead of powerhouses like Japan, Germany, the UK, and France. It's a hard time, Madam Speaker. We have more to do, but we're going to approach this in a responsible way, not like the other party with our austerity agenda.
Member for Northumberland, Peterborough South.
As always, the Liberals give us half-truth. The reality is that Canada has the worst GDP per capita in the G7. Those are the numbers, and more than that, our constituents are feeling it. Your constituents are feeling it. The longer these Liberals are in government, the poorer Canadians get. Canadians desperately need a break. Will they agree to giving Canadians a fuel tax holiday, or better yet, call a carbon tax election?
Yeah, let's go.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam Speaker, I've been hearing the members opposite talk about road trips. I'd like to tell them about my last road trip when I was driving across Canada with my family. We had to cancel our camping plans because of wildfires. We had to reroute our road trip because of wildfires. We are taking action to make sure we're fighting climate change. The members opposite, they're letting the planet burn.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Madam Speaker, the CAA has conducted a survey of its members' vacations plans, and unfortunately the results are brutal. One Quebec paper said that inflation, gas prices, and mortgage renewals are weighing on Quebecers' vacation plans. This is exactly the three things we've been raising for Canadians every day, and that's exactly what this Liberal government washes its hands of. And all this while yesterday the government ridiculed families. When will the government finally understand its management has been poor? Madam Speaker, the member across the way knows full well that the government of Quebec is not included in the Canadian price on pollution, the backstop, because Quebec has its own carbon market. The member also knows that what he's proposing is to save a cent or two per litre of gas in Quebec, but to save the money that they are saying, they'd have to go back and forth to Mexico all summer to have these savings. The member for Louis Saint Laurent. I repeat, Madam Speaker, inflation, taxes, mortgage rates. For 9 years, this government has not controlled spending at all, or its inflationary budgets or deficits. They're feeding inflation and directly boost mortgage rates. As for taxes, we know that they've invented new taxes, and even worse, their bloc allies want to hike the carbon tax, and they punished people. Will these people finally understand one day that Quebecers are fed up of paying tax and having extra tax? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Madam Speaker. That's exactly what we have to do, is understand the situation. It's very simple, Madam Speaker. 8 out of 10 families in Canada receive more back from the carbon rebate. And the reason is quite simple. Because all of these carbon revenues are redistributed to Canada's. The richest Canadians pay more than they receive, but the middle class receives more than they pay. And that is why 8 of every 10 Canadians families get more back in their pockets from the price on pollution. So it also avoids pollution. The honourable member from Manicouagan. The Liberals have turned the official languages committee into a never-ending source of reasons for the fear the future of French. After the member for Saint Laurent, who claims that Bill 96 prevents Anglos from being treated, and after the member for Glengarry Prescott-Russell insults researchers concerned about the decline of French. Yesterday, the Liberal from Alfred Pallon said that Quebec must become bilingual to become strong and not just a unilingual francophone province. And according to him, French reduces us. So once again, is this the Liberal position? If not, will they call their MP to order? If there's one thing, Madam Speaker, that we cannot be clear on, it's the Liberal Party's commitment and the Government of Canada's commitment to respecting our 2 official languages. In all of our institutions and at all levels of government in Canada, we are here to protect Francophone minorities outside of Quebec, and we also recognize the decline of French across the country, including in Quebec. And yes, we recognize that there is a linguistic minority in Quebec as well, the honourable member for Manicouagan. This is indicative of a cultural problem in the Liberal program. The raison d'etre of the Language Committee is to promote French in Canada, and all the Liberals have to do is, out of their 156 members, pick 5 of their own who speak French and want to protect it. And all they have to do is only follow these 2 criteria, and they can't even do that. So let's get back to the member for Alfred Pallon, who defends in committee that English should be the official language in Quebec, become one rather. What is he doing here? Is it hard to send a Liberal who doesn't want to harm the French language? Madam Speaker, the member from Alfred Pallon is just as much of a Quebecer as the colleague across the way. There are 35 members from the government from Quebec, and we want to protect French in Quebec, and the official languages and minorities across the country is what we want to protect. And the Bloc is here to do one thing: turn Quebecers against each other, create quarrels, and divide people. We're not here for that. And we are in favor of linguistic unity, Madam Speaker. 1/3 of people enrolled in the NDP's dental care program are in Quebec. The need is there, and the NDP has delivered. But the Conservatives and the Bloc don't want dental care for seniors, children, or people living with disabilities. The Conservatives are spreading misinformation and don't care about the impact this could have on people's health and pocketbooks. We can't let them do this. Will the government counter the Conservatives' misinformation and ensure that dental care is available to everyone who needs it? The Honourable Member or Minister of Public Services and Procurement. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Surprising news from the Conservative leader. Last week at Radio-Canada in Quebec, he said that the Canadian dental care system didn't exist. He said this live on the radio in Quebec. The dental care system didn't exist. Yeah, we're talking about misinformation. We need more. Well, he's totally disconnected in saying that we don't have a system, even though there's thousands that are signed up for it, and others are as well.
The NDP forced the government to do it, and now we want to make sure that all Canadians get it. Beginning in June, children under 18 and persons with disabilities will benefit from the NDP's dental care plan. Tens of thousands of seniors are already saving money thanks to this dental coverage. But the Conservatives want Canadians to pay out of pocket. They already want to axe dental care for seniors. They're spreading disinformation and doing everything they can to take it away. Will this government put into place all the resources necessary to fight Conservative disinformation and stop them from denying dental care for Canadians?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Well, thank you very much, Speaker, and I want to thank the member opposite for a very important question. The Conservatives are in denial. They will continue to deny that somehow dental care does not exist because they really don't care about Canadians. They don't care about the seniors, hundreds of thousands of seniors who already have access to dental care, because what Conservatives will do is they will cut this really important and essential program that is already looking after our seniors. We will continue to defend the dental care program and grow it so that all Canadians who are eligible can get access to good oral health care.
The honourable member for Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, after 9 years, it's clear that Canadian families, that this NDP Liberal government is not worth the cost. Canadians are struggling to make ends meet. Rent and mortgages have doubled, and groceries have doubled, and now the summer family road trip that so many look forward to is coming out of reach. In fact, families from my riding who look forward to going to Jasper every summer are having to cancel this trip because of this NDP Liberals carbon tax. That's why Conservatives are calling on this NDP Liberal government to give Canadians a break this summer. By axing the carbon tax and all other fuel taxes, it will save Alberta families and all Canadian families hundreds of dollars. Why won't this NDP Liberal government give Canadians a break?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Madam Speaker, let me talk more about that road trip. As I traveled through the mountains, Rockies, I couldn't see them. You know why? Because of the thick smoke coming from wildfires. Could only see about 2 cars ahead of me. We're fighting to save the family road trip, to make sure that Canadians get to experience this beautiful country. What are the Conservatives doing? They're letting the planet burn.
The honourable member Sturgeon River Parkland.
Well, Madam Speaker, yesterday the Liberal Health Minister and that Liberal over there showed Canadians just how out of touch these Liberals are with the lives of everyday Canadians. Apparently, any family vacation that isn't using a bicycle needs to be cancelled because it's destroying the planet. Conservatives are calling on this NDP Liberal government to axe their carbon tax this summer to give Canadians a break so they can enjoy a summer vacation. Unlike these out-of-touch Liberals, Conservatives want our children to explore our great country. Why are these Liberals telling them to stay at home instead and just look at their phones?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
What happened yesterday in this House is that the Health Minister exposed the Conservatives. The Conservatives had offered up what they called hundreds and hundreds of dollars in savings. But the Health Minister was describing what you would have to do to access these savings that the Conservatives were claiming. 38,000 kilometers in an automobile locked up with your children non-stop would be the requirement in order to derive the savings the Conservatives were claiming. They should be ashamed of themselves. It's misinformation, Madam Speaker.
You know, we weren't doing too bad. I just want to remind members to please keep their thoughts to themselves until they're being recognized by the Speaker. The Honourable Member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. After 9 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Instead of offering tax release, this government increased the carbon tax by another 23%. Conservatives are asking this Prime Minister to immediately axe gas taxes. That would save a Saskatchewan family $860 this summer alone. Will the Prime Minister vote with us on this side of the House on a common-sense Conservative motion so Canadians can afford a summer trip?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing Infrastructure.
Like some others, Madam Speaker, their math is off. The reality is that Canadians benefit. 8 out of 10 Canadians end up better off as a result of the rebate where it applies in the various provinces, Madam Speaker. He talks about taxes, though. Funny, I heard an interview where the Leader of the Opposition told a journalist from the National Post that bakers bake bread and Conservatives cut taxes. It's not exactly true. This government has voted, has put in place measures to cut taxes for the middle class, to cut taxes for small businesses. They voted against that every single time.
The Honourable Member for Saskatoon-Grasswood.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I spy with my little eye a government that wants to ruin family summer holidays. Yes, do you remember playing that game while traveling through this beautiful country? Sure you do. We all do. But yet yesterday, the Liberal Health Minister describes this family road trip as a punishment. But for all average Canadians, it's quality time. Will this Prime Minister show some compassion and vote for us on Monday so Canadians can afford a summer road trip?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Madam Speaker, the Conservatives stood in this House and promised Canadians sunshine and flowers and hundreds of dollars in savings. If only the Liberals would agree to their crazy proposal. What we found out is that you'd have to drive back and forth to Mexico several times in order to save the money that they claimed. What happens, Madam Speaker, when you do that is families are locked in cars and they can't stop and all of that. These things that the Conservatives come up with, Madam Speaker, are just crazy.
Order, order. I think if other members want to contribute, they should wait until they're being recognized. The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal Prime Minister is not worth the cost. On Monday, this House will vote for our common sense Conservative motion to save Canadians 35 cents per litre on gas until Labour Day by axing the carbon tax, the federal fuel tax, and GST on gasoline and diesel. Families really need a break. This tax holiday will save the typical Canadian family $670 this summer. So will the Prime Minister vote with us so Canadians can afford a simple summer road trip, or will he keep Canadians home this summer?
Great question.
The Honourable Minister.
Madam Speaker, on the other side of the benches, they just don't do the math. Since this government has come into power, Madam Speaker, things like the CCB, the Canada Child Benefit, have lifted over 450,000 children out of poverty so that they can have gymnastic classes, so they can go on that summer road trip. Madam Speaker, also $10 a day childcare. We're saving families thousands of dollars. Rather than 35 cents on the dollar, why don't they invest in families?
The Honourable Member for Kelowna Lake Country.
These Liberals are becoming more unhinged and out of touch. And there's the perfect example of the Liberals' socialist agenda, where they tax people to oblivion, and then they look at what they can give back a little bit that is actually your own money. Now, Canadians can't even afford to feed themselves. They can't afford to visit loved ones. They can't afford to save for their future, certainly. Taxes keep going up, and the carbon tax just went up 23%. Give people a break. Give people a tax break. Will the Liberals vote for our common sense bill to give families a tax break and axe all federal fuel taxes this summer, or will they just keep Canadians at home?
Honourable Government House Leader.
Madam Speaker, let me remind that member of her record. In the last election, she went around Kelowna Lake Country telling everyone, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put a price on pollution. Right. Now she's coming here and flip-flopping, saying, oh, I must have been mistaken, Madam Speaker. I must have been mistaken. I really didn't do that. It's really selective amnesia on our part. That member has also voted against every single tax relief measure that this government has put forward in this House that favors the middle class and asks a little more of those able to pay.
That is...
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. The Climate Change Adaptation Expert Group, created by Quebec, tabled a disturbing report on Tuesday. The experts expect warming to reach 4.5 degrees in Montreal and 7.6 degrees in the north, 5 times higher than the target set in the Paris Agreement. Meanwhile, also on Tuesday, the Liberals and the NDP voted for $30 billion in tax breaks for oil companies, another $30 billion to greenwash this increase in dirty oil. Why not redirect or find solutions to climate change adaptation or redirect these sums?
Secretary to the Minister of Environment and Climate Change.
Madam Speaker, I think it's really important to take this moment to speak about the report we tabled with the IPCC to show that our current emissions are the lowest in 30 years. In 30 years. Stripping out COVID. It shows that what we're doing now to fight emissions by putting a ceiling on emissions here in Canada, and it's working. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. While the Liberals and the NDP are giving handouts to oil companies in the West, the forest fires have already begun. In Montérégie, there was a tornado on Monday, and on Wednesday, Metro Media predicted a hot, dry summer with a high risk of drought, violent storms, and forest fires. Now is the time to invest massively to mitigate the impact of natural disasters. Every dollar invested now will save 15 later, according to Quebec experts. So why not, once again, redirect the handouts to oil companies to climate change adaptation? The Honourable Government House Leader. Madam Speaker, the member was talking about catastrophes. I know what she's talking about. Here in Gatineau, we've seen recent floods in recent years, and we are the first and only government to have tabled a credible plan to fight climate change and greenhouse gas emissions. She should also address the members across the way that clearly deny climate change. I don't know why she's not doing this, or they deny any investments or measures to tackle climate change.
For New Westminster Southwest.
Madam Speaker, the best time to buy a home or rent an apartment in this country was 9 long years ago, before the NDP Liberal government coalition broke our country. Their policies have doubled rent, doubled mortgage payments, and doubled down payments. It's a housing nightmare for young Canadians. For families like the Hamiltons in St. John, it means paying $1,500 each month to live in a leaky, moldy apartment because they have nowhere else to go. Will the Prime Minister stop funding photo ops and bureaucracy and instead start getting homes built in this country to help Canadians that desperately need help?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
The colleagues should check the record, Madam Speaker. Under Stephen Harper, housing costs doubled, in fact. When he talks about, for example, things like bureaucracy, they use the term gatekeepers in the pejorative every time they get. What they're actually talking about is not working with partners, not working with provinces, and in particular municipalities. We know that working with municipalities, with mayors, with councillors, with public servants at the local level is fundamental, because that's where zoning decisions are made. The Housing Accelerator Fund is leading to zoning changes. We're going to get more homes built through that way and many others.
The Honourable for New Brunswick Southwest.
That's not good enough. Homes are not being built fast enough to help Canadians. Mr. Corey Hamilton is a husband and a father of 4. He is worried. He believes his 6-year-old son has been sick because of the family's living conditions. But the Hamiltons, like many other Canadians across this country, have no decent options because of Canada's housing crisis caused by this Prime Minister's wacko ideology that makes everything more expensive. After 9 years, the Prime Minister is not worth the cost. What does the Prime Minister have to say to the Hamilton family and other desperate Canadians across this country?
The Honourable Leader of the Government in the House.
Well, the first thing I would say is that they're very well represented by the member from St. John. The second thing I would say is they should talk to this member of Parliament and tell him to stop advocating for a cut to zero in regional development agencies and a COA in this country. And the third thing I would say is that every single housing measure put in place and proposed by this government, that member has voted against. If you're the Hamiltons, you want him gone, Madam Speaker.
The honourable member, order. The honourable member of New Brunswick Southwest had an opportunity to ask his questions, and he should take the opportunity to listen. Order. I'm glad the member can compose himself. The honourable member, the
honourable member for Montmagny-Lisle-Kamouraska, Rivière-du-Loup. Thank you, Madam Speaker. After 9 years of this Prime Minister, the housing crisis has become unbearable for Quebecers. While homelessness and hunger are spreading across Quebec, affordable housing is becoming increasingly rare. Almost 2 years to obtain a building permit in Montreal. It's a shame. Quebecers deserve better than this incompetence. Can this Liberal Bloc government put an end to this uncontrolled spending and finally give Canadians what they truly deserve? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Madam Speaker. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the numbers of affordable housing units that the Conservative leader built throughout his entire career as Minister of Housing across the entire country, yet he talks about insults. He insults the Quebec municipalities, saying they're incompetent, yet they're building 8,000 affordable housing units. Who's incompetent? Or the 8,000 units or the 6 from the Conservative leader? The Honourable Member from Montmagny, Leslie Kamouraska-Rivière-du-Loup. Madam Speaker, 9 years of this Prime Minister means 9 years of misery for Quebecers. They have no affordable housing and now find themselves in motels or in the streets. The Bloc claims to defend Quebec's interests, but turns their backs on them and votes for every measure that could alleviate their suffering. They voted against the Conservatives' common sense affordable housing bill, but for $500 billion in centralizing inflationary appropriations. Can this Liberal Bloc government come to the aid of Quebecers instead of ruthlessly wasting their money? The Honourable Minister. Let's try to look at things 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 6, rather, affordable housing using that the Conservative leader has built throughout his entire career as housing minister across the entire country, Madam Speaker. It's surprising to hear him talk about affordable housing and insult my colleagues, yet in his riding there are 134 units that have been built in recent months by the Canadian government.
The Honourable for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Madam Speaker, New Democrats want to make voting easier and more accessible for Canadians. That's why we push the government to make changes to the Electoral Reform Act. Or bill, but this government has proposed changing the election date, allowing 80 additional MPs to qualify for a pension. Canadians are struggling with high costs. They don't want politicians to make laws for their own financial gain. New Democrats will introduce an amendment to keep the original election date. Will the government support it?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And while some members in the House seem to be focused on pensions, we're focused on fair elections. Hear, hear. We're focused on fair and participatory elections. We're focused on elections where people can vote and vote fairly. Obviously, every party in this place wants to have a fair election, and everybody wants to engage. We will ensure that through a Bill C-65 that will make it easier for Canadians to vote. We'll make sure there's no foreign interference, and we'll get the job done. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable for North Island, Powell River.
Madam Speaker, grain farmers are anxiously waiting for the Liberals to make a decision on the Bunge and Viterra merger. If this merger goes forward, they dominate the market in the prairies and own 47% of Vancouver ports. This would mean less competition and lose hard-working farmers about $770 million a year. The Minister of Transport has until Sunday to send his recommendation. Will the Minister meet with the farmers' unions and grain terminal workers before making a decision?
Yes.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Obviously, we take competition very seriously in Canada, and we want to ensure that farmers get fair access when they export their grains. We will be speaking with the Minister of Transportation about this issue, and I know he's already seized with this particular issue. Thank you so much.
The Honourable Member for Markham, Stouffville.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Every year, approximately 4,500 people die by suicide in Canada. That's equivalent to 12 deaths every day. The impacts of suicide extend far beyond the individual. It affects families, friends, and communities. Canadians need timely access to suicide prevention supports no matter where they live. Can the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions tell us how we're working with all partners to strengthen our suicide prevention framework? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Madam Speaker, today we released Canada's first National Suicide Prevention Action Plan. My heart goes out to the many families and friends who have lost a loved one to suicide and the ripples of pain that are felt throughout communities. The new National Suicide Prevention Action Plan brings together all orders of government and Indigenous partners towards a better collaboration on suicide prevention. This is about working together to save lives, Madam Speaker. If you or someone you know is thinking about suicide, call or text 988.
The Honourable Member Calgary Forest Lawn.
Mark Carbon Tax Carney should show some courage, show up to Finance Committee, and answer what he'll do when he's coronated as Liberal leader. Canadians are terrified. He'll take the country down this destructive path that this Liberal NDP Prime Minister did, that caused carnage, that doubled rents and mortgages, that made food unaffordable, all on the path to quadruple the carbon tax. After 9 years, none of these carbon tax crusaders are worth the cost. Will the Liberal lapdog NDP and their costly cover-up coalition partners get their future leader to testify at Finance Committee? Yes or no?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, I'm old enough, Madam Speaker, to remember when that member was running under Aaron Carbon Tax O'Toole. The fact is that the Finance Committee has a lot of work to do in passing a budget that ensures fairness for every generation. Major investments in housing, major investments in making sure that Canadians, especially young Canadians, can get ahead in life. These games that the Conservatives play, they got to get off it. Obviously, math is not a criteria to be the finance critic over there. Here's what we suggest he do. Get to work on passing that budget.
Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
Well, Liberal math says that budgets balance themselves, and that minister should want and give courage to Carbon Tax Carney to show up. He'll be his leader soon enough after all. And Canadians are terrified to know what path Carbon Tax Carney is going to take the country down once he becomes Liberal leader. And they need to know if he's going to continue down the same extremist, woke, wacko, policy, ideologically driven path as this current Liberal NDP Prime Minister. So will this costly coalition step up, give Carney some courage, and get him to testify at the Finance Committee? Yes or no?
The Honourable Leader of the Government House Leader.
Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin.
Madam Speaker, I'm not sure what words we're still allowed to use in here, but I think it's okay and fair to say that this is the most incompetent, reckless government in Canada's history, consistently undertaking radical experiments with objectively terrible results. An RBC report today says that, quote, a slow bleed over the last 2 years has left per capita output back at 2016 levels. Canada's per-person income has been falling for 2 years now. When will this NDP Liberal government recognize that the more it borrows and spends, the worse it makes things for Canadians?
Bravo. Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
The Conservatives again use GDP per capita or per person. That's what he's talking about as a measure of critique, which they can do. It is one measure, not a particularly useful one, as most economists will tell you. But let's look at that. Again, on that particular list compiled by the IMF and other organizations, the country leads Japan, the UK, Germany, and France. We have a AAA credit rating reaffirmed by Moody's, the lowest debt and deficit in the G7, and we're going to lead the G7 in economic growth going forward in the future, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton-Wetaskiwin.
Well, Madam Speaker, let's take a look at some Liberal history, if we can. Let's take a look at the Trudeau legacy, okay? The Trudeau legacy, 14 deficits in 15 years in the 70s and 80s. A Liberal government that has not run a single balanced budget yet, so that's 24 deficits in 25 years. That's the Trudeau legacy. It led to economic devastation back then. It's leading to economic devastation right now. How can anybody in the NDP or Liberal caucuses support this economic disaster unfolding?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Groundbreaking legislation to deal with the crisis that is climate change, Madam Speaker. The first government that has acted meaningfully on the issue of reconciliation, lifting 2.3 million people out of poverty, hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, and we're going to continue that record. You know what, on particular, Madam Speaker, which we don't talk enough about as a country? Pensions. They want to join Danielle Smith to deplete the Canadian pension plan by 53%, Madam Speaker. We will not let that happen.
The Honourable Member for Terrebonne. The Liberals promised that the HoC Commission would have access to all information on foreign interference, but the Justice is saying that the Liberals are holding back information. The Prime Minister's office has sent her redacted information. And worse yet, yesterday, the Prime Minister said that the Justice had enough information, but that is not up to him to decide. It's up to her to decide when she has enough information. So will the Prime Minister stop sabotaging this foreign interference inquiry? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Commission, let me be very clear, has broad access to classified and unclassified documents as agreed to by all the parties. This is a very important point to make, that under her mandate, the Commissioner's mandate, all parties agreed to examining foreign interference in the 2019-21 elections, bolstering security of our democratic processes, protecting Canadians of diverse backgrounds. We will continue to make sure that she has the information she needs and to which all parties in this House have agreed to. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Les Patriotes Verchères. The Liberals promised Justice HoC access to all of the information, but so the Prime Minister needs to keep his promise. Justice HoC, and this created this because the Liberals refused to shed light on foreign interference, and the Prime Minister had even tried to invent a false inquiry by appointing his own investigator, a friend of the family. He will not succeed today, and so he needs to get out of the way of Justice HoC so she can do her job. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Justice HoC is a distinguished jurist in this country. The Independent Commission has broad access to classified and unclassified documents, as agreed to by all parties in this place. The only exceptions relate to access to solicitor, client privilege, and cabinet confidence. These exceptions will be applied by professional and impartial public service. We want the truth, and we will always do everything in our power to get the truth. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
110 billion tax dollars flowed out the door, and business was booming for the Liberal Employment Minister after his lobbying firm got direct access to the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Minister. Insiders lined their pockets while Canadians were lined up at food banks. After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, Canadians can see that it's clearly not worth the cost or this kind of corruption. So will the minister face the Ethics Committee on Tuesday, or will they try to deflect and distract like the minister who's not going to answer the question that I've just put to him?
Leader of the government.
Madam Speaker, Canada has one of the stringent conflict of interest and ethics guidelines and rules for officials and for ministers that exist in the world. This minister has complied with all of them and has answered all of the questions that the member just put.
Armour for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
It's always great to hear the front bench over there talk about the ethics rules in this country when he sits next to a Prime Minister who's broken our laws, ethics laws, twice. The Public Safety Minister broke those laws. The Trade Minister broke those laws. It's a cabinet of serial lawbreakers, and now we have the minister from Edmonton who lined his firm's pockets when they got direct access to the Prime Minister's office and the Finance Minister's office. We know that the minister doesn't want to answer the question, and we know that they're going to try and get him out of his appearance on Tuesday. Will they call in the RCMP?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Once again, the member knows very well that the minister has complied fully with all of his obligations under the conflict of interest and ethics guidelines. The member keeps going on a bit like Javert on this issue, but I guess that's the job he's been given, and that's why we have to continue to answer these questions that have been answered repeatedly, Madam Speaker.
South Shore, St. Margaret's.
The Prime Minister's Green Slush Fund chair resigned after lining her pockets with taxpayer money. Another NDP Liberal Green Slush Fund director was caught funneling $42 million of taxpayer money to companies she owns. And now the Minister of the Environment, before his election, lobbied the PMO more than 25 times to help this director put that $42 million in her pocket. Or I know you're going to say he was just like John McClane saying, I'm just getting together to have a few laughs. So will the Liberals investigate every taxpayer dollar the Environment Minister stuffed into this corrupt director's companies?
I want to remind the member he's to address questions and comments through the chair and not directly to the members. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Madam Speaker, once again we see Conservatives really try and reach and take wild swings. Ministers are required to submit to the most rigorous conflict of interest and ethics requirements in the Western world. This minister, that minister, all ministers have fully complied with those requirements, Madam Speaker.
Right on. The Honourable Member for Lac Saint Louis. Thousands of seniors, including seniors in my riding of Lac Saint Louis, have already been to see the dentist to get treated, which shows the success of the Canadian Dental Care Plan. But the opposition continues to oppose this program over and over. The opposition leaders even playing the ostrich by saying that the program doesn't exist. Can the Minister of Public Services and Procurement give us an update on how this program is already making a difference in the lives of seniors here in Canada? The Honourable Minister. I'd like to thank my colleague from Lac Saint Louis. This is very surprising news, Madam Speaker. The Conservative leader said on Radio-Canada last week that the Canadian Dental Health Plan doesn't exist, whereas 2 million seniors have already signed up for it and have already begun to receive treatment on May 1st. 60% of providers are already signed up. So instead of spreading misinformation, we are encouraging all seniors in Quebec and elsewhere to sign up for this new dental care plan, which will make a big difference for their health. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-l'Érable. Madam Speaker, I am shocked. The member for Alfred Pellan has said that it is not relevant that French should be the only official language in Quebec. He said the entire country should be bilingual to be stronger, not just francophone provinces. This is unacceptable, and not one single Quebec Liberal has stood up to denounce what he said, not even the member for Papineau. When will the Liberal members finally stand up to defend Quebec? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague for his questions because it will finally allow me to talk about the Conservatives' inaction for the past 9 years concerning the priority that should be given to the modernization of official languages in terms of the action plan. Madam Speaker, I would just like to remind this House that we have doubled the investment in the Official Languages Action Plan, and we're going to be there for French-speaking peoples and for minority languages in Canada and Quebec. The Honourable Member asked his question. I would have liked to have him listen to it, to the answer, instead of engaging in conversation and heckling.
Prince George.
After 9 years of this NDP Liberal government, 6 British Columbians die every day from overdose. Deaths in BC are up 380%. Overdose is the leading cause of death for children aged 10 to 18 in BC. Despite this, the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions claimed BC's radical drug experiment was a success. Really? She's even refused to rule out expanding the deadly program to Toronto and Montreal. Will the Prime Minister commit today to keeping the rest of Canada safe from his failed drug policies?
Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Madam Speaker, it never ceases to amaze me how much misinformation members on the other side can present onto this floor and to Canadians. Madam Speaker, BC requested a pilot program. The pilot program continues, and we continue to work with them in order to save lives. I've also been unequivocally clear, having worked with the Premier and with Toronto Public Health, to reject their proposal. We don't work in hypotheticals on this side of the House, Madam Speaker. We work with evidence, experts, and the best comprehensive measures that we can take to save lives in this overdose crisis. Shame on them.
The Honourable for Lanark, Frontenac, Kingston.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, with respect to the dairy barn at the Joyceville Correctional Institution, which is scheduled to open in July, number 1, what was the original budgeted cost? Number 2, what is the actual cost? Number 3, has dairy quota been made available by Dairy Farmers of Ontario? And if so, what are the contract details and how much will that cost? And finally, Will any of the milk that is produced be entered into the general supply for public consumption? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Foreign Affairs.
I want to thank the member for his ongoing interest in corrections and in the well-being of prisoners who are incarcerated. That's a complex question. We'll take note of that, and we'll make sure we get back to him with the details. It's almost an order paper question style. What I would say is that Corrections Service Canada is committed to making sure that inmates leave our correctional facilities better than they came in. So we provide vocational training whenever we can and wherever we can to ensure that they truly are rehabilitated and can make contributions to society in the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Ottawa-Vanier.
Businesses that make up our main streets are the lifeblood of our communities. Au fil des années,
Over the years, and especially during the pandemic, Main Street businesses experienced considerable difficulties. I know that the minister responsible for the Southern Ontario Development Agency put in place a program that will help Main Street businesses to grow and prosper.
opposite may not see the value in supporting our small businesses, but on this side of the House, we know just how important they are to our regional economies. Can the minister share in this House how important this program is?
Bravo.
The Honourable Minister.
I would like to thank the member for Ottawa-Vanier, from Ottawa-Vanier, for her important question. The My Main Street program is extremely important for small business and for our communities.
Delivered through the Canadian Urban Institute is going to deliver $15 million to small businesses on main streets and the organizations that support them. Our government knows that those businesses are the vibrancy of and success of our communities, and we're going to continue to deliver important programs that grow businesses, and we thank our hardworking entrepreneurs and all the organizations that support them. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Churchill, Kiwana-Newcastle.
Madam Speaker, Canadians are struggling, all while this government lets rich oil and gas corporations off the hook. The recent Parliamentary Budget Officer's report on corporate taxes is clear. Oil and gas corporations pay among the lowest federal tax by industry in Canada. As they jack up our carbon emissions and our country burns, they made a record $120 billion in profits in 2022. So when will this Liberal government stand up for working Canadians and bring in an excess profit tax on greedy oil and gas corporations who are clearly not paying their fair share?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
Madam Speaker, we have eliminated inefficient fossil fuel subsidies. We have introduced a tax on share buybacks. Throughout, we have made it a priority to focus on tax fairness at all levels, and that includes the corporate sector. We're going to continue to be there for Canadians. We're going to continue to make sure that those who are doing well are paying their fair share. It's important for the future of this country. There's so much at stake, and I thank the member for the question.
Yeah. The Honourable for Spadina, Fort York.
Madam Speaker, with their anemic new defence policy, Our North Strong and Free, the Liberals finally recognize there's a Canadian Arctic, and its sovereignty needs some protection. This severely underfunded two-decade policy includes the building of northern operational support hubs. The problem is the policy has $0 for these hubs in 2024-2025. Can the Minister of National Defence inform Canadians how he can build anything without any money for a year and an abysmal $2 million in 2025-26? Has he ever shopped for a house in the north? Will there even be a sovereign Arctic in 2044?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Madam President, I really want to say thanks to the member for his question because, again, reinforce the fact that we have introduced a wonderful defense policy update where we are increasing our spending. And we have actually taken notes. We're listening to our partners. We're listening to our CAF member. $8.1 billion over the next 5 years. And we will continue to help our military as they are always ready for us. Merci.
And that brings us to the end of question period. I have a point of order. The Honourable Member for Charles St. James Assiniboia.
Headingley.
Headingley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Regarding recent violence against the Jewish community, I seek unanimous consent for the following motion, which I believe has been agreed to. I move that the House condemn the recent violent attacks on Jewish schools in Montreal and Toronto and a firebombing on a synagogue in Vancouver, and stand firm with the Jewish people to ensure Canada remains a place where Jews are free to live, worship, and pray in peace and security, and calls on the government to do more to stop anti-Semitic violence everywhere in Canada. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All those opposed to the honourable members moving the motion will please say nay.
D'accord? The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those opposed to the motion will please say nay. Carried. Tabling of documents. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. Pursuant to Standing Order 36.8a, I have the honour to table in both official languages the government's responses to 9 petitions. These returns will be tabled in an electronic format, Madam Speaker.
Introduction of government bills. Déclaration de ministre. Rapport de délégation interparlementaire. Presenting reports from committee, the Honourable Member for Edmonton West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have the honour to present in both official languages the following report from the Standing Committee on Government Operations and Estimates, also known as the Mighty OGO, the 19th report entitled Main Estimates 2024-2025. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Presenting reports from committees, the Honourable Member for New Brunswick Southwest.
Oui, merci beaucoup. Madame la Présidente,